Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I'm so excited for you to meet Amanda Chocko. She is a nutritional therapy sleep coach and author of the newly released book, Relax, Sleep, Thrive, Your 5-Week Journey to Peaceful Restorative Sleep. Having struggled with her own insomnia for decades, Amanda decided to take matters into her own hand in 2021 when her sleep issues really just became chronic and too much to deal with. Tired of short-term solutions that really failed to address the root cause, she dedicated over 2 years to meticulously research the science behind sleep. Her deep dive resulted in the development of a successful process that will address not only her own chronic issues, but help empower you to find the root of your own sleep issues and conquer chronic insomnia. So thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Danielle. I'm really excited to be here.
And sleep is one of those topics that I think it gets kind of overlooked, but it is so impactful in so many areas of our lives. So I'm so excited to dive into this. But before we do, can you share a little bit more about your story and your journey as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, I became a nutritional therapy practitioner back in 2017, and that was really due to some other health conditions that I was dealing with. I had inflammatory bowel disease, probably for about a decade before that, and really went the conventional route of medications. And that worked for a while, but then it wasn't working anymore. And I was facing possible surgery. And I thought, nope, there's got to be a better way. I really have to find the root cause of what is going on. So I began going the more holistic, functional routes, and really found out that I was dealing with mercury toxicity and all kinds of food sensitivities and all kinds of issues that I had to fix. So over a couple of years, I was going through detoxing and trying to heal my gut, and was able to really pull myself out of that and come off of the medications. And all the while I was blogging. I had a blog called the Feeling Groovy Project, and I was just blogging about all the different things that I was trying, and and also about nutrition and health. And then people started to ask me a lot of questions about their own health struggles. And I really didn't have the credentials to be able to give them any guidance. I just had my own experiences at the time. So that's when I decided to go to school to become a nutritional therapy practitioner. And I went to the Nutritional Therapy Association based in Washington. And once I came out of school, I was really focused on gut health and autoimmunity and blood sugar balance and helping women dealing with these struggles. And although they never really came to me with sleep issues, it was a common issue among all of them in one way or another. And I always dealt with sleep issues on and off throughout my journey, but it was really just something I just kind of played whack-a-mole with at the time, different over-the-counter remedies. I mean, for a while, I was like doing NyQuil every night. And that is not the answer. But it was kind of on and off. But then during the pandemic, my insomnia really became chronic. I was going, weeks and months with no sleep, terrible sleep. And it was really impacting every aspect of my life. And then it was time to get back to the drawing board, because I knew I'm not going to go back to those whack-a-mole remedies. I need to find the root cause. And as you spoke about in the introduction, that's really when I dug into the research and really experimented with all different techniques that I was reading about. And I was writing about all of this, just journaling it as I was going. And then at the end of it, when I was able to fix my own insomnia, I realized that, I really need to help others that are going through this. So I came up with a methodology that I used for myself. I wrote my book, Relax, Sleep, Thrive, which is really a 5-week program that anyone could walk themselves through, and turn my whole practice to focusing on helping women that are dealing with chronic insomnia or sleep issues.
No, I love all of that. And as you were talking, I have to admit, I did Benadryl for a while to help me sleep when I was really struggling. And like you said, I
Yeah,
know that's horrible because then when you really do need it for something else, it doesn't work. But I was at that point, I was like, I will do anything to get a good night's sleep, and
yeah,
whether it wasn't even always falling asleep for me, it was staying asleep. And it's so impactful. Like I said, it affects your mood, it affects how you eat, it affects your decision making, it affects everything in so many
absolutely.
incredible ways. And we don't put enough focus on taking care of our sleep and making sure we're getting a good night's sleep. But I hate that quote, I'll sleep when I'm dead, because unfortunately you want the quality of your life up till then to be great.
Yeah, yeah. I used to say that quote myself, and often hear people. And you're right. Everything. It just, we do so much, as busy women, to try to find our energy, right? Like, what supplements can we take? What can we do to get more energy and really be able to conquer our day? And really, consistent quality sleep is your superpower. I mean, if
Yeah.
you have that dialed in, everything else, you're working out, your motivation, your
Mhm.
willpower, your cognition, your creativity, everything just falls into place and just makes you be able to reach all of your goals and just rock it.
Yeah. And it sounds like, definitely not only changing what we're doing for our sleep, but the way we think about it, our mindset. And I always love to talk about mindset too, because like you said, we've both said that quote, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of thing, of our mindset about hustling and putting sleep as such a low priority needs to be part of that shift as well. Because then when you really crave and need that sleep, your mind isn't dialed into prioritizing it. So it's going to be hard to achieve just from a mindset point, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, our days are so busy, and quite often at the end of the night, you're like, oh, okay, the kids are asleep, or I've gotten everything done for the day. This is my me time. And then you find yourself scrolling on social media, or binging on Netflix, or working, on your computer, or doing anything, and just saying, you just have so much to do, and putting sleep on the back burner. And it's just never a good idea to do that.
So in the book or when you work with clients, how does somebody approach this? What are kind of some of the broader steps that you really focus on when it comes to creating successful sleep?
Yeah, so there are really three main pillars that we work on. The first being just the foundations of good sleep. So really dialing in your circadian rhythms, being on a
Mhm.
regular sleep schedule, having some type of a wind down routine so you decelerate from your day and making it easier to fall asleep, optimizing the sleep environment. And we could talk about all those things if you'd like. So that's really pillar number one, is just, sleep hygiene and the
Mhm.
foundations of sleep. Pillar number two is really sleep begins the minute we wake up every day. So really looking at all of the things that we do throughout the day that could have a positive or negative impact in our sleep. And this is
Mhm.
light exposure, meal timing, alcohol, caffeine consumption, even supplements and medications sometimes have insomnia as a side effect. So I really work with my clients, and in the book of beginning to journal those things and try to, make a connection between your sleep quality and maybe tweaking the timing of those things. The
Mhm.
third pillar, which may be the most important and the most popular that I have to work on with clients, is stress management.
Yeah.
Because if you're stressed and your cortisol and adrenaline are racing, and you can't shut your mind off, you mentioned, waking up in the middle of the night and being unable to fall back to sleep. It's really working on managing stress, but also coming up with techniques to deal with those situations.
Yeah, and I was thinking as you were talking, because those are such key areas to hit on. For some of them, I think a lot of times we get stuck on, but I can't control X, Y, and Z, whether it's, you have kids and a baby that gets you up in the middle of the night, or I go back to my full-time job in a couple of weeks and I have to get up way earlier than my natural wake up time. It's a couple hours earlier. And so I know that's something that throws me off. How do you help people that have kind of these external factors that are outside of what they think they can control?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly seasons in our lives that sometimes we don't have control. And, being a new mom, having, babies that wake up in the night, that's just something that you have to try to get help, from your partner or whoever else, and get those naps when you can. And really, it's you just have to make the best of those situations.
Mm-hmm.
The sleep schedule, and then all of a sudden like getting back to work or having to change that schedule, that's something too slowly that you have to work on. So ideally you're waking up the same time every day, and then gradually you'll build enough sleep pressure that you'll have get sleepy at the right time at night and be able to
Mm-hmm.
get that full sleep. But if you know now that, okay, I have a few weeks and I have to go back to work, it's starting to change that schedule now and not wait until
Yeah.
day one when you have that alarm goes off and you're like,
I
oh my
know.
goodness, what the
The
heck.
kids coming back to school hate that too, when you would like make them try and go to bed early and get up early, and they're like, but it's
I
still
know.
summer.
Yeah, it's not easy. None of this is easy. It's all
Mhm.
about habit building and routines, and sometimes making sacrifices.
Yeah.
There are certain things and there's certain times that things are just going to wreck your schedule. It's just, you're going to have bad sleep and you don't have control of it. It's when it becomes chronic that's the issue.
Right. And definitely having an awareness, I think, of those different habits in that second pillar that you talked about. I definitely noticed, having a glass of wine later in the day, things like that would totally throw off my sleep. And so, I've changed when I go out to eat or when I'm, with friends, how I'm eating and drinking in order to not kind of throw off my sleep and, have my good time turn into a bad night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and then, as I've gotten older too, my tolerance for alcohol has definitely diminished significantly,
Yeah.
where, I really have to do that risk reward when I think about those social situations. But you
Hmm.
need those social situations too. So sometimes, like you did, you really just try to, not go completely off the rails,
Yeah.
and just know that the next day you're not going to feel your best. It's again, it's like when it's a chronic thing. I used to always have a glass of wine while I was making dinner.
Hmm.
That was like my, just all of a sudden became like a big habit. Or having that glass of wine, to wind down. A lot of people use alcohol to do
Hmm.
that, and it works in the beginning of the night because
Right.
it's a sedative. You're going to fall asleep, but it definitely wrecks your sleep.
It
I
wakes
mean,
you up.
it wakes you up in the middle of the night as soon as it starts processing through your liver.
Yep.
So those 2, 3 a.m. wake up calls, and then all of a sudden your brain turns on. And even if you don't wake up in the middle of the night, it will mess with your sleep architecture and your sleep cycles, and you're just not going to feel your best and well rested the next day. So
Yeah.
I do occasionally have that glass of wine still, and I
Yeah.
know it's like, this is, I want to do this, and I know tomorrow's not going to be the best, and I'm just going to come up with ways to get through it.
Right. And like you said, it's about making that choice and that priority on a consistent basis, and just kind of staying aware and on top, because unfortunately, like you said, there's seasons, and what worked at one point might not work at a different point. I know hormonally, I've gone through some changes as well that have also wreaked havoc with my sleep, hot flashes in the middle of the night, those types of things. And just kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it's changed my cortisol, it's changed my metabolism, and just kind of recognizing that it's always a work in progress a little bit. We're always trying different things, working on stuff. And just because it doesn't work once doesn't mean it's not the solution, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone was listening right now, they've heard these three pillars and things like that. Are there any other like tips or strategies or things that you personally do as part of your nighttime routine that are going to help somebody listening?
Absolutely. There are many things. Things that I like to do is the first thing is get ready for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So, because like I said before, your good sleep starts the minute you wake up. And if you wake up and you're running around and making lunches and trying to figure out what you're going to wear, or, decide not to work out because you didn't lay out your workout clothes. So I like to, make sure I'm prepared for the next day. So that's part of something I do after dinner. I like to do to-do lists the
Mm-hmm.
night before, or really think through the things that are on my mind and journal, either doing like jotting down, these are the things I need to do tomorrow, or just getting some worries or thoughts out of my head. Because the more you kind of brain dump and clear your mind, the less you're going to have that mind chatter. Everything at night gets
Oh
magnified,
my God, it's
right? As
huge.
far as worries, it's like I
Mm-hmm.
stress out over these things, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I
you're
don't even
fine
know
with
why I
them.
was worried about that. And I was
Mm-hmm.
actually going through my journal from the last few years, a little while back, and looking at the things that I was writing down that I was worried about that never came to fruition.
Right.
Or the things that did, I got through it. It was, things are going to
Physiolog
happen. Excuse me?
Physiologically, I was going to say, physiologically, is there any reason that you were able to find why our anxiety gets so much more heightened at night versus during the day when it comes to kind of mundane things?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things going on there. One is when during the day, we're just busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just not thinking about all of these things, and our mind's just occupied with other things. So all of a sudden it's nighttime and it's just you and your thoughts, and you're in a dark
Mm-hmm.
room. And then all of a sudden, all of those things start popping into your head, and you start going down these rabbit holes and maybe catastrophizing, or, have anxiety, worrying about things that may happen, and you start telling yourself stories about these things. And the other thing is just the way we're wired. We have a survival mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
within us that is just, we're just wired to look out for threats,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and that's just, our basic, you know, brain from back when we were hunter gatherers, when you going to bed at the night and there could be a wild animal around, so you're always kind of on the lookout for those threats. So your brain automatically goes to like the worst possible scenario as a defense mechanism and a survival mechanism. But in our world we have so many things that are happening and worrying us that it just goes into overdrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think, once we kind of put these things out there, like I loved how you talked about with journaling, because this is something I work on with people as well, that it's not only about just getting those thoughts out, but rereading them can give such a different perspective and be able to help you see them more objectively than if they just stay in your head. So in general, having that notebook near your bed, I don't know if this is something you recommend, but I do this, like I put a notebook near my bed so I can get those thoughts out of my head so that they don't keep spinning round and round.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that, doing that before bed, it could be very helpful. And also if you
Mm-hmm.
wake up in the middle of the night and that notebook is handy, you just
Mm-hmm.
jot it down and say, I'll deal with it tomorrow. There's a section of my book on designated worry time.
Okay.
So just saying, there's really nothing that you're going to be able to do in the next 8 hours, when you're supposed to be sleeping, and you're really going to be so much more equipped to deal with any situation with a good night's sleep. So really getting that mindset, first of all, and maybe an hour or so before bed, things that are really on your mind, jotting them down and saying, I'm going to designate a certain time tomorrow, whether it be 15 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, that I'm going to problem solve
Mm-hmm.
and really see, what things am I blowing out of proportion? What could I reframe, that I'm just telling myself stories, that aren't true, or what are things that, I'm going to do something about. I'm going to come up with a strategy to deal with it, and things that are, in your power. So really, I had the situation with my son where he was traveling around the world and he's doing all kinds of like adventure, crazy things. And I was just kind of always worried all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he wouldn't he'd be in areas where I wouldn't be able to contact him. So I would be texting him all the time, and I'd always end my text with #warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So one day he texts me back and he's like, "Mom, you got to change that O to an A. #warrior." And I really have adopted that as kind of a mantra for myself that, as soon as I find myself worrying about something and I'm #warrior, I put that A in, become #warrior. And then all of a sudden I feel like whatever it is, I'm going to be able to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be able to overcome it. I'm going to be able to fix it. And it just completely changes the way you think about these things.
No, I love that. Using that powerful mindset shift about how you're looking at the situation has got to be huge, as far as taking care of not only yourself, but then just even the message you're giving your son and your family and the people around you, that you're taking ownership of that. So that's great. So thank you for sharing those practices. So I also love to always talk about gratitude as an underutilized form of self-care, because I think, the way we think things we're thankful for, that type of stuff, has a huge impact as well on our sleep. Gratitude and being kind of in that calm kind of place of peace and things like that. What are some of the things that you would say you're the most grateful for?
So, I have so much. Right. I have so many things to be grateful for, and like the typical things: family, love my work. I'm really blessed in many, many ways. One of the things I've really been trying to focus on lately is, when you think about, you get a new house, you get a new car, you get a new job, something new and exciting is happening in your life. And then all of a sudden that kind of novelty wears off, right?
Mm-hmm.
That excitement wears off, and you're looking for the next thing, right? That's going to bring you joy or excitement in some way. So I'm really trying to step back and look at those things, whether it's relationships or anything like that, is like, what made me excited and happy about this situation, or thing in my life that I kind of taken for granted now,
Mm-hmm.
and try to like recapture whatever that thing is. So that's been my gratitude practice lately, as far as techniques to do.
Yeah.
But certainly have a lot of things to be grateful for.
I love that, being able to not only take the thing you're grateful for, but dive deeper into the why, so that you can kind of savor that part a little bit more as well. That's fantastic. So how can people get your book, Amanda? How can they work with you and kind of help improve their own sleep? Because I know, like I said, it's just such an important topic.
Sure. Well, my website, amandachocko.com. So on there, you could find my book, my programs. I'm developing a group program right now, so that to keep an eye out for that. That's probably going to launch sometime in the fall or early next year. Also on Amazon, you could find my book. And then also follow me on Instagram, Amanda.Chocko, where I give tips on sleep. And then on my website, I have a free download on how to create your perfect wind down routine that anybody can have access to. And that's also on my Instagram as well.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to definitely snag a copy myself. And those links will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Amanda, for all of that information. Holy cow. Definitely go back and re-listen to this one, because I think to even just try one or two of those habits will start to make a difference. So thank you again, Amanda.
Thank you for the opportunity, Daniela.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.